Welcome to this recorded version of my recent presentation to the Rotary Club of Rosanna on Taman Hati, or Bali Orphan Day Centre. It's most fitting that I gave this presentation on the 10th anniversary of Ruth and I joining Rotary. It was this project that led us to become Rotarians, and since we joined this club it has become one of the longest running and most successful projects of the club. To understand the history and nature of the project, however, we must go back much further. The project is based in near Kuning village, just south of Ubud in Bali. It was all started 20 years ago by this man, Kadek Suambara, after his best friend was drowned in the local river, leaving two young children with no means of support. Kadek knew of other families in similar circumstances and realised such children would never receive a proper education without some form of support. So he formed what he called the Orphan Club, recruiting expatriates settling in the area to fund the education costs of such children. We met Kadek in 2002. We were most impressed by him and by his project. We joined up, agreeing to sponsor 4 more children for the duration of their education. At that time, the Orphan Club had just 18 children at all levels in school, supported by 4 sponsors. We thought it would never become more than just a private sponsorship club. Everything changed later that year, however, after the Bali bombing. Following that atrocity, the whole economy in Bali collapsed. There was severe economic depression lasting several years. Suddenly many more children were in danger of dropping out of school for lack of money. We had a system in place that worked. It worked well. Sponsors were matched one-on-one to particular children, and every dollar they donated went to that child's education. We recruited more sponsors and took on more children. By 2005 we had more than 40 children, supported by 20 sponsors. It was all becoming much too big to be run from a notebook. The Suambara family owned this showroom on the main road to Ubud. It was a business selling artefacts, but in fact was doing no business because no one was doing much business at that time following the bombing. The family decided the building was better used for charity, so the Orphan Club was formed into an official registered organisation, a yayasan, a cooperative charity. It took over ownership of the building, and we now had a headquarters. That building consisted of one main room, the former showroom. We furnished this so the sponsored children could gather after school, mainly for social contact, as these children did tend to be somewhat socially isolated. We also began to conduct some classes, such as English. We also commenced some activities, the first being traditional dancing, with classes for the girls and the boys. A computer station was set up in the small office at the back of the showroom, from which the sponsorship program could be administered. We also set up 5 more computers so that we could commence computer instruction for the children. The primitive toilet in the original building was renovated into a proper bathroom for the children. We added a washing machine so they could bring their clothes along as well, and a fridge so that snacks could be provided. We put up a sign on the main road to Ubud to announce our presence. So the Orphan Club had now become a proper legal entity, a registered yayasan. It had a headquarters, and we had after-school activities commencing for the children. An official opening of the yayasan was conducted by the Governor of Ubud in early 2007. Nothing stood still, however. In fact, progress snowballed. Not long after the official opening of TamanPH2018Vid, Hati, the property next door became vacant. Claudia's hair salon had become bankrupt. Ruth happened to be there at the time, and she immediately bought the remaining lease on that land, following which the owners of the land also donated it to the charity. That property, however, was in very poor condition indeed, and its small rooms were very unsuited to the activities we wanted to conduct. With the help of one of the leading architectural firms in Bali, who donated their services, we drew up plans to demolish Claudia's and build an extension to the original building. We were able to commence that later the same year. Claudia's went, and we now had a second wing to our building. In the new extension we had two main rooms, the first of which was set up for art and drawing activities, with screens to display the children's work, and in one end of the room we created a small visitors' reception area. The second main room was our teaching kitchen, designed and funded by Val McLaughlin, in which we could prepare hot drinks and snacks for the children when they attended and provide lessons in the basics of cooking. In a third smaller room we began to collect a library for the children, both educational books and references and general reading books to encourage a love of reading. We also gained a much needed second bathroom. So by 2008, just 10 years after Cadet conceived his original idea of an orphan club, it had grown into a substantial registered charitable cooperative with now substantial premises. There were 83 children under sponsorship from kindergarten through to year 12, supported by 61 sponsors, now drawn from around the world. The original children, of course, had grown up. 12 had completed studies through to year 12. 2 had gone on to complete business college diplomas, and 3 were studying in university. None of these children would have gone beyond primary school without this assistance. To this point it had not been a Rotary project, just something Ruth and I had become involved in, but we had received very substantial support from several members of this club, and that led to our interest in Rotary and to us becoming Rotarians in 2008 by joining the Rotary Club of Rosanna. We were not going to stop there, however. It seemed unlikely we would ever be donated more land, so all our ground floor constructions had been designed and built to take a second level one day. Our architects had drawn up ambitious plans for a second story over the entire existing construction, plus a rooftop pavilion. We thought such expansion would be a very long-term project, perhaps something of a 10-year plan. We did, however, receive 2 substantial offers of corporate support, providing their contributions were tax-deductible. That led us to discover RAWCS, Rotary Australia World Community Service. If a club project could be brought under the auspices of RAWCS, then the contributions became tax-deductible. That led to this club adopting TamanPH2018Vid Hati as a club project, and we obtained RAWCS endorsement in 2009. Fundraising then proceeded much more rapidly than we ever dared hope for, to the point we were able to commence construction in 2011. This was not a volunteer project, but used all local labour and expertise, providing much needed employment. You might also notice that the human chain passing concrete up to the second level are all women. By 2012 the second level was taking shape, and in December that year the present magnificent building was completed. A full-time manager for TamanPH2018Vid Hati was then engaged, Ayu Ramayana. Ayu was herself a single mother, having been abandoned by her husband with a 2-year-old boy. She was totally in sympathy with the aims of this project and has since been one of our greatest assets. Our second level extension consisted mainly of 2 very large rooms, this one destined to become a library and computer laboratory, freeing up the small downstairs library to become Ayu's office. We were still fundraising for furniture and equipment, but within a few months the library was a reality. It was stocked with both educational and reference books, which the local schools largely lacked, and general reading books suitable for all ages, mostly in Bahasa, but bilingual where we could find them. The computer laboratory was equipped with 6 updated computers, all networked and with internet access. The second main room was intended to be used for meetings and lessons. It was furnished for this purpose with a raised dais, a projector and a sound system, and foldable lecture-type chairs. It quickly found other uses as well, however. The children quickly realised this audio-visual equipment would play DVD movies, so it became the Saturday night cinema, and the chairs could be cleared away for activities like yoga and relaxation lessons conducted by Cadet. And at their request we provided a table tennis table, entering a team in the local pennant competition. The architects had not wasted the rooftop, providing an open area with a covered ballet, a place for informal gathering or where the children could generally retreat and relax. Downstairs, of course, space had been freed up. The original showroom was now dedicated entirely to traditional dancing. still our most popular activity. Val's kitchen was in very regular use, sometimes with lessons for the senior students provided by local chefs from hotels or resorts nearby. Often visitors with an interest in cooking would enthusiastically donate a lesson or two, and IU was offering lessons almost daily to the younger children on the basics. Art and drawing remained popular and now had its own dedicated room. We set up a gallery on which the children's work could be displayed, and one end of that room was furnished as a visitor's reception area. We had not anticipated the extent to which the existence of such a prominent building on the main road to Woodward would attract drop-in visitors. They would often leave a donation, perhaps bring back some supplies, buy a child's painting, or a few even became long-term sponsors. So the building itself had become a major source of revenue to fund its own ongoing operations. Other activities developed which we had not specifically planned, particularly the music program. This began when a drop-in visitor who thought the centre could offer music instruction came back with an electronic keyboard. That was followed fairly rapidly by a couple of guitars, a set of recorders, a set of drums. The music was particularly popular with the older children, who soon formed themselves into the Ambar Band, shown here with a prize they collected in a local competition. So by the end of 2013, TamanPH2018Vid Hati was thriving in its new premises. There were more than 100 children under sponsorship and a very, very active after-school activities program, plus educational facilities such as the library and computer laboratory that were open to all local children, not just the sponsored children. One problem, however, became evident. The sponsorship program had no geographical boundary. Some children lived quite some distance away and were either unable to get to the centre at all for the after-school activities or were brought by the family in methods we considered quite unsafe. We also wanted to be able to take the children on outings or accept invitations that were beginning to come in from resorts or hotels to bring a group of children for a meal and a swim. Here is a trip we undertook to Bali Bird Park. Great fun, but the transport was certainly less than optimal. Here's another trip we shared with the Jody O'Shea Orphanage, a residential orphanage in Denpasar, utilising their bus. Again, great fun, but much better transport, and we clearly needed something similar. In 2014, Cadec put forward the formal proposal that TamanPH2018Vid acquire its own minibus. By that stage, they were raising most of their own recurring funding, and they were confident they could operate and maintain such a bus if Rotary could provide it. We were insistent that any such vehicle must be new. Buying anything second-hand was probably buying trouble, and it must contain all the safety features we would expect in such a bus in Australia. The estimated cost of a Toyota 16-seater on the road was 48,000 Australian dollars. Provision of a minibus was accepted into the aims of our Rorke's project and an appeal begun. By the end of 2017 we were still not quite there, still having the red area on this bar graph to go. The graph also shows, however, the importance of Rorke's to the fundraising. The light green area shows the percentage of donations processed through Rorke's, indicating the importance of the tax deductibility to the donors. The final very welcome boost to this appeal came in April this year in the form of a district grant from District 9790. This was matched by the Rotary Club of Rosanna from its general fundraising. The bus was finally ordered for delivery in May. And so it was that I arranged to visit TamanPH2018Vid again in the last week of May, to finalise the purchase of the bus, arrange an official handover, and generally catch up on progress of the centre over the previous 3 years. The bus was not scheduled for delivery until my second day there, so my first day was spent generally inspecting the place and catching up on its general progress. I must say I was delighted. Starting in IU's office, which was becoming crowded, but she was generally very happy with it. She had an up-to-date computer on which to manage the sponsorship program and the accounts of TamanPH2018Vid generally. Those accounts were meticulously kept, but using commercial software such as Excel spreadsheets. That could be made much more efficient with dedicated software, and the centre needs an up-to-date website with a direct PayPal link to make donation easier. That is a project I am now working on. What had appeared in our office, and I did not know about it previously, was a CCTV system donated by a local security professional. From here, you could monitor the activities in all rooms in the centre, and it provided a measure of security at night. Not that there has ever been a problem in that regard. Upstairs, an English lesson was in progress, and that large room was packed. English is taught in the schools there, but the standard of teaching is extremely poor. IU had engaged an English teacher who I found to be excellent. Like the dance teachers, he is paid for one afternoon a week, but gives far more time than that, and these lessons are open to all local children, not just our sponsored children. That night they held a debate on the subject of whether Bali had too many hotels, in English, without notes, using audio-visual aids. I must say I was extremely impressed. I wish my Bahasa was that good. The music program was booming, no pun intended. The original small office was now a dedicated rehearsal room and had been fully soundproofed for the protection of the neighbours. I found not only the Ambar band rehearsing, but there is now also a girls' Ambar band, and now a junior band and a traditional gamelan orchestra, complete with dancing dragon or barong. Traditional dancing remains extremely popular, but there is now not just one dance troupe, but we have the senior girls, the senior boys, and junior boys and girls. Val's Kitchen remains in constant use, not just with formal lessons as originally planned, but the children now functioning quite independently, preparing snacks, cakes, soups, hot drinks for children taking part in the other activities. The computer laboratory, however, I found was lagging behind. The computers were outdated, two needed repair, and the software was also outdated. I thought this might be another project, but IU had already addressed the problem, having secured promises of 4 new desktop computers and 4 new laptops due to arrive in August. She had also engaged an IT professional to give weekly lessons. The following day I was back at the centre very early. The bus was scheduled to arrive sometime later that afternoon. I found the children already busy, giving the place a thorough spring cleaning inside and outside. IU brought out all our Rotary regalia, creating a prominent formal display on the front of the centre for the bus handover ceremony the following afternoon. Assisted by numerous children with healthy lungs who were delighted to blow up as many Rotary balloons as we could find. In the afternoon a loud cheer went up when the bus was seen arriving. It was carefully backed into the prepared carport by the Toyota engineer, and to everyone's delight it actually seemed to fit. I spent the next hour with the accounts lady from the Toyota dealership, finalising details of the purchase, insurance, registration, etc., while Cadet and IU spent the same hour with the engineer, having the usual new owner's handover and instruction on the vehicle's details and accessories. I was also pleased to inspect and approve the signage that had been applied, not only advertising Taman Permata Hati, but also the role of Rorke's, Rotary Club of Rosanna and Rotary District 9790. I was also very pleased to learn that this signage on both sides and the back of the bus had, through the generosity of local suppliers, cost us all of $50. As part of our fundraising, we had also promised that we would name the seats in the bus after our major donors. I was able to affix these lovely plaques that had been prepared by Fayoers of labels and badges, which included, of course, acknowledgement of the Rotary Club of Rosanna and Rotary District 9790. There was, however, one unforeseen problem. The bus fitted very neatly into the carport in width, but not in length. The rear wheels bumped against a step, preventing it backing fully in. The front protruded onto the footpath a little, and the gate could not be closed. Cadet disappeared and then reappeared within minutes with this local mason, who set to work at once, removing the offending step. Bringing with him his high-tech equipment, he worked late into the evening, and by next morning the extended carport was complete prior to the handover ceremony that afternoon. It's worth noting also that all this was done at no charge whatsoever. The locals regard this as an important community centre and are very happy to contribute in any way they can. The bus, however, would not be in its carport that day. Not only was the concrete still wet, but this was the day of our big official handover. The bus was parked in the forecourt and given a thorough wash, which it probably did not need. It was suitably dressed for the occasion in a traditional Balinese fashion, as was IU. The children had been very busy in the kitchen, preparing traditional edible offerings, which were laid out for the ceremony in front of the bus. In the afternoon our guests began to arrive. We had about 50 invited guests, at least that many children, and I don't know how many drop-in visitors attracted by the noise and colour of the ceremony. Not least amongst our guests was Assistant District Governor Dr. Patrick Van Kampen. Patrick was the founding president of the Rotary Club of Bali Seminyak, our sister club in this Rorke's project. Our guests also included local dignitaries and donors. I was delighted in particular to meet this lovely lady, Ibu Wayan, who I am told donates substantially every month towards the activities at the centre. I was also particularly pleased to welcome our architects, Monday and Yeoman, and their chief builder, Utek, who gave so much of their skill and time in the development of this centre and remain actively involved in its maintenance and upkeep. The ceremony itself began with speeches of welcome and thanks by IU and by Kadek. The children gave brief dancing performances, our senior girls and the senior boys. Prayers were held for the safety of the bus and all who would travel in it. Then the bus was blessed in the traditional Balinese manner. This would have to be the safest bus on the roads. Presiding over this ceremony was not just any Hindu priest. This in fact is Kadek's father, assisted by his mother. Kadek's father is now a revered senior Hindu priest, but in the past has been many things, including village chief, and he in fact started the first woodcarving school in near Kuning village. I mentioned the land on which all this stands was donated by Kadek's family. This is the patriarch and matriarch of that family. And without their wisdom and generosity, none of this could ever have taken place. When the bus was blessed, the children who might travel in it were also blessed. The keys were then brought forward for official presentation. I was delighted to hand the keys to Kadek and IU, who would probably be doing most of the driving. The keys were, of course, all properly mounted on Rotary key rings from Rotary Down Under. We were then pleased to pose photos in front of our Rotary regalia. I think it important that we use any such occasions to publicise some of the work that Rotary does in the local community. We also used this public occasion to confer a special Paul Harris Fellow recognition upon Kadek. He was presented with the usual certificate and medallion and pin. Kadek is not a Rotarian, but was judged the most suitable recipient of this recognition, which had been donated by Ruth, for his 20 years of dedication to the education of disadvantaged children. He has certainly fulfilled the Rotary Foundation's motto of doing good in the world. After the formalities, the ceremonial offerings were then shared among all present. Guests and children were then invited indoors to continue celebrations at a reception and supper. Longer dance performances were given by our senior girls. The dances depicting traditional stories from Hindu legends, or sometimes battle as given by the senior boys. A more substantial meal was then offered to everybody, all the food having been prepared by the children in Val's kitchen. Their preparations had included a celebration cake. I had given them a picture of the Rotary wheel and suggested they might try that, and this in fact was not a bad effort at all. But they'd gone further. They'd also made a bus cake and a We Love Rotary cake. The meal concluded with the cutting of the cakes by the senior guests, and under the decorative icing these cakes were all different and all in fact quite delicious. And so ended our official handover. The next day, however, I was back at the centre again very early. The bus was to make its maiden voyage, taking our girls' band to a competition in Denpasar. I found much preparation already in progress. When they were satisfied, everybody was loaded into the bus. We had a full house. Everyone was securely strapped in their seat belts and instructed on proper behaviour during the journey. There was ample room for all their equipment as well, and the driver seemed quite delighted. So off they went, accompanied by a music teacher. I think the only nervous one was me, but they did in fact return quite safely in the evening. They didn't win the band competition, they came second, but the bus was judged a huge success. The children found it comfortable, in fact quite spacious, and I found it very easy to handle in the chaotic Balinese traffic. Sadly, its next journey was to take me back to the airport. I was accompanied in that journey by 6 children, who stayed up late to see me off, and I think to enjoy an English lesson for 90 minutes on the way down to the airport. Again, I was very impressed, not only by their command of English, but by the ambitions these children expressed. We had in that bus a couple of aspiring teachers, a chef, a nurse, and a couple of managers. And I was reminded that probably none of these children would have got beyond primary school, if that, without the existence of this project. The Rotary motto in 2008, when this became a Rotary project, was "Make Dreams Real," and we have kept that motto as more or less the permanent motto of TamanPH2018Vid, Hati, because it really does make dreams real for these children. So the TamanPH2018Vid building is now complete, being utilised well and in more ways than we originally imagined. The bus is now purchased and in service, and the charity is becoming self-sustaining, although not quite there yet. They are raising IU's salary and most of their own running costs locally. But we're still keeping TamanPH2018Vid as an open project. It's a great success story, but there will still be more to do. Particularly now that we have transport, we envisage taking more children on for sponsorship and encouraging more after-school activities at the centre. As an open Rorks project, donations over $2 will still be tax deductible. Anyone who does want to help contribute to this work can do so quite simply. Simply go to the Rorks website, rorks.org.au. Click on the Donate Now button, which appears on the home page. Then choose Project 53, registered 2009 to 10. Or you can simply search projects in Indonesia and find us that way. All donations over $2 are tax deductible, and you can make a donation on that web page by credit card, direct transfer or cheque. Obviously I can't take questions on this recorded version, but I'm very happy for anybody to contact me for more details on peterlittle2@bigpond.com. Thank you for taking the trouble to watch the presentation, and I do hope you've enjoyed it.